So now we've got the drawing. Here's the template as it was laid out. So the line, see if we can get this a better shot here. This corner right here lines up on the lines that I've made on my layout when I went down the course. So this is the line that I drew at 12.5 inches. This little mark right here is the mark that I made when I did the first one, where the leading tread intersects with the next riser. As I go down the line, if this mark lines up with the tread line from the previous layout, and this corner lines up with my layout mark, I've got a backup system to make sure that I haven't made some error somewhere. You can now look to see what the thing is going to look like before you ever start to build it. This is exactly how it's going to look. If you like this amount of reveal, you can stay with it. Otherwise, you can now change that depth, make it more or less. For a practical application, this piece of material would have to be cut down so that I had an entry and an exit somewhere in this neighborhood, so that it looked more like this, so I can drop my router bit down and make the route. The next thing that you want to look at is the bit that you're going to use to do this with. This was a flush cut, which I had modified. So it's a 3/4 inch flush cutting bit, but I didn't want to have, these bits tend to be longer. They're 1.5 inches or so in length. I didn't want to have a really big template that I would have to take two of these things and glue and screw them together. So I had the shop where I bought this from grind the profile down to get the cutter length that I wanted. In addition, these bearings, there's usually one bearing on here. They don't work terribly well. So I put 2 bearings on here, just bought replacement bearings. Sometimes I'll put in a third, so you get a much bigger bearing surface than a single bearing. That allows me fewer opportunities to damage this template. The other thing that I want to check before I start routing anything out is if my layout's correct. So from the face of this riser to the face of the riser next in line should be 10 inches. If it's not, then I want to know about it now. So that's laying out right at the 10-inch mark. The other thing is that the riser from the top of the tread to the riser should be 7 9/16. And it is. So now I'm ready to route. The other thing that I'll do by making it long, I will go all the way to the end as if this here were the end of my proposed end to the staircase. If it were to end here, I'll run one more drawing out so that I know what's the plumb cut to have this thing lay out onto the floor. At that point, if I know the height that I have for my base or whatever it's going to mate to, I can make that notation now. But I can't simply cut it flush with the edge of the riser, because then I'm missing this area here for the skirt to run downhill into the to mate up with the base. The other thing happens going on the uphill side. If this were going to be my top tread, this was going to be my top riser. This was the landing here. I would go ahead and route out one more on a wall stringer so that the flooring can be mated into here. I have some reference as to where I want to be when I bring this thing up and attach it to the wall. That way the flooring can die into there and you're sure to have the correct rise-run ratio.